Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to the second in our series of community consultations around artificial intelligence and its intersection with policing. Thank you all, those who are in the room and those who are online, for joining us. I certainly want to start off with some acknowledgements, and I'll start off with the typical one, which is the land acknowledgement. But before I even do that, I think we need to acknowledge the space we're in. This is a space where of civic leadership in our community, debates happen here, and even disagreements. And we're fortunate to live in a country where we can have disagreements, but still work together around the collective good of our community. And this is a space where such debates happen in our city and in our region. But this space is also located on lands which I just want to acknowledge as belonging to people who occupied this space long before we came. And we just want to pay our respects to them. These are traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people. And they were here for thousands of years. These are the indigenous people who inhabited and cared for these lands long before we arrived. And so we are grateful to have the opportunity to work in this territory, and by doing so, respect the land's significance for all the people of Peel. So thank you for giving us that moment. I also want to acknowledge then the others who are in this room, more specifically, our Peel Police leadership, our Deputy Chief Anthony Oduardi, who will be leading off the consultations with some experts in the area of AI. But I also want to acknowledge my fellow board members. We have Sumita Kohli, who is our vice chair for the board, and also a member of our Governance and Human Rights Committee that I happen to be currently chairing. We also have Omar Khan, who is another board member. We have our executive director, Mr. Rob Serpe, and our support staff, Angela Anjvani. Thank you for all the work that you do behind the scenes to organize all of these things. And I also see our staff superintendent, Dirk Niles. Thanks for giving us so much of your time on this particular subject matter. And my fellow ARAC member, Sophia, thanks for making the time and representing ARAC in this space. For those of you who are not aware, ARAC is the Anti-Racism Advisory Committee, which is the community group that provides oversight for the Human Rights Project. That's the project between the board, the service, and the Ontario Human Rights Commission. That's focused on ensuring that our service continues to evolve and provide policing in a way that is focused on the well-being of our community. All right, so having said all of that, oh yes, Martin, you went to the back, and I see that's what happens, Martin, when you go to the back of the room. Councillor Reid is here. Thanks, Amita, for pointing that out. Councillor in Mississauga, who is also here observing, and I'm sure he's multitasking, which is why he took that seat. And for all, of course, you as members of the public who take the time to be here to participate in this important conversation. This is about us trying to make sure that as we move forward on this important subject around artificial intelligence, we do so with your input, with your feedback, because at the end of the day, when we're using new technologies like these, it's all about focused on community safety and well-being. Policing should not move forward with any of these technologies without hearing from you, the members of the public. And that's what this exercise is all about. So the Governance and Human Rights Committee, which is of the board, which I am the chair, leads this conversation. But this is around co-designing what the solutions will look like as we implement them, and rather than just putting them in place with no feedback from our community. So I hope you recognize how much valued your input is. Now, because the topic is such a broad one, we wanted to make sure we provide a little bit of guidance around how we handle the conversation. And so the last time we met here was September the 23rd. That was our first session. So today is the second of 3. And we talked about the impact of AI as it relates to human rights. And today we're going to approach the conversation on AI from another perspective. And to help guide us in that, we have some subject matter experts. We're going to speak first. Our deputy chief is going to introduce them. And once that's done, then we'll have the deputations from the members of the public so that we can hear your feedback also. So over to you, Deputy Chief Anthony Duarte, all yours.
Okay, well, thank you, and through the chair, and welcome to everyone here tonight and those who are viewing online. We know we have the community's undivided attention on this subject matter because it is so important to the modernization of policing and the impact on our community, specifically in the area of human rights. Also, the Blue Jays are off tonight, so we know everybody's tuning in, and we do have everybody's attention. I am truly honored to be sitting beside Professor Kanika Samuels-Wortley. She's a professor at the Ontario Tech University, Canada Research Chair and criminologist, whose expertise focuses on the intersection of race, technology, and justice. She has not only worked with PRP, but she has been just a great subject matter expert to bounce ideas off, get perspective, understanding her education, how she has conducted research, some of which you will hear tonight, which is very interesting. Of course, we also have Ms. Claudia McCoy, community engagement and co-design expert, founder and principal of Upsurgence Consultancy. Many of you will remember Claudia, not only from our last session here, but Claudia's work at the City of Mississauga with the Mayor's Black Caucus community engagement. Claudia did some research study, came up with a recommendation related to AI and how PRP should conduct some additional research and engagement around artificial intelligence. And this is what brings her to the table tonight. And I would say it's 18 months of excellent community engagement, lessons learned, and understanding, which has brought forth some not only issues that the community has, but also some unexpected research that has resulted from it. So very interesting work, and thank you both for joining. As you see tonight, this is a 3-part series in the board's consultation with the community. Mr. Carby introduced the first one back on September 23rd, which was human rights and in the age of artificial intelligence. Very successful community engagement, which we heard deputations, and we took back some of that information to actually help curate some of tonight's information as well. Today, we have the accountability and predictive policing, and I'd like to say predictive analytics in policing. And I got that from Kanika, actually. And I think it's very important to position it that way, and I'll let the professor talk about that as you take over in a few minutes here. And perspectives on machine learning. And then, of course, on November 4th, we have an upcoming session related to transparency and the importance of privacy and data protection when using data and AI together. It's very important. So we did go through our introductions, and we're going to get right into it. What I want to do for folks viewing online and for those here in the audience is to suggest to you that this is not a pros and cons from me. It is not a good or bad or we should or we shouldn't. It's to provide information on how artificial intelligence can impact community safety, can impact the lives of community, both positively and negatively, and the considerations that we must undertake when deciding on AI tools. Hey, listen, we showed up here at around 5 o'clock, and by 6:05, AI has already advanced. We are daily entering into a new realm of tools and issues related to artificial intelligence. Gartner, of course, defines AI literacy is being able to use AI effectively and responsibly in society. And I'm going to get a little bit more on that in just a moment as I talk about mindset. As a leader in Canadian policing, as I travel the country to speak about AI and AI impacts in policing, I talk to leaders not about their literacy related to AI, but how to lead their organizations and community in understanding the impacts of AI when used in a public safety setting. It's very important. The good and the harm that AI has potential on our communities must never be understated, and we must always co-design and look to understand with our communities. Of course, understanding AI is very important. There's so many tools. I could tell you right now from our engagement sessions, many community members, including many police professionals, misunderstand AI tools with proprietary software, proprietary tools. And we know things like machine learning, large language processing, AI types of tools will lead to either good or negative sentiment around the types of tools that are used in public safety. We're going to go through some of those tonight and understand the impacts of some of the artificial intelligence tools. Of course, AI public safety context. I am part of an international organization of public safety professionals that speak about AI and talk about impacts not only in our local communities, regional, and also national settings. Canada is at the forefront of some of leading AI works, having launched the world's first national AI supporting research hubs here in Toronto and other cities. Regulations related to that, including the Data Act, the AI and Data Act, will be very instrumental in shaping those regulations and understanding how the tools can be used. Of course, for PRP, and led by some of our work with our Ontario Human Rights Project and our ARAC, we are putting at the forefront privacy and rights specifically related to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and local legislation within our own police service on how AI tools are rolled out. And then, of course, we must understand that AI is not solely being used in public safety and in policing. It is being used by all systems across our society, including our health, education, finance, natural resources. And so how do the collective AI uses, including public safety's use, impact our communities? So we believe in a community-driven approach. I'm not going to steal Claudia's thunder on this and the professor's thunder. We're going to talk about our approach with co-designing, understanding the lessons learned we've heard in our engagements, our lessons with our human rights project, our privacy, how we can prevent harm, the transparency and accountability mechanisms that we will build in. A lot like when we implemented body-worn cameras, how we developed a transparent and accountable mechanism for reporting publicly to our community on the instances of recording charges related to body-worn camera, as just one example. Of course, we always speak about a human in the loop. It is the central and fundamental pillar in which I believe artificial intelligence must focus on when implementing tools around public safety. A machine will never dictate to policing what and how we do our jobs for the community. A human in the loop to understand context, to verify, to provide transparency and accountability must always be present. And of course, how is this related to our Human Rights Project? Staff Superintendent Dirk Niles is here with us. He and I both co-sponsor the Human Rights Project here at Peel Regional Police, and its intent is to identify and eliminate systemic racism. And part of that is what we do about AI implementation, the type of data issues that we may run across when we start using data-specific AI tools to help understand where we should be developing plans or deploying resources. We must anchor our approach with our subject matter experts here tonight. Co-design, as I mentioned, is one of the most important pillars of our approach, and acknowledge that AI can infringe on human rights. It is very important to acknowledge that upfront and to understand that and to use the expertise that we have around us, not only here tonight, but within our community, to understand what those impacts can be so that we approach this in a non-discriminatory way with our use of technologies. So right now, again, it's my honor to turn this over to the professor, and she's going to take the second part of our information session tonight.
Thank you so much, Deputy. It's a privilege to join this important conversation about the evolving role of technology in public safety. My remarks today focus on how artificial intelligence and predictive analytics are shaping modern policing, not only in terms of operational capabilities, but also in how communities experience and understand the role that AI plays in our collective well-being. The term predictive policing is often used interchangeably with artificial intelligence, but there are important distinctions between the two. Artificial intelligence refers to the use of computers and machines to replicate human intelligence and problem-solving capabilities. These systems are guided by a set of automated instructions or algorithms that enable them to analyze information, recognize patterns, and make data-driven decisions. For example, which was discussed in the previous board meeting, AI-embedded 911 call systems can analyze emergency calls in real time through speech recognition and natural language processing. These systems detect urgency, classify incidents, and assist dispatchers in prioritizing high-risk situations. And this is all with the goal of improving emergency response times. Predictive analytics, by contrast, is a branch of artificial intelligence that focuses on analyzing data and identifying patterns to forecast future events. Within the context of policing, predictive technologies rely on historical data, for example, to identify areas with elevated risks of criminal activity. This information can then be used to guide strategic decisions about how to allocate police resources. While law enforcement has long relied on historical intelligence to inform operations, what distinguishes modern algorithmic systems is the breadth and the variety of data now available for analysis. Historical data are no longer confined to police records. They may also include public and private sources, such as community surveys, zoning and municipal data, demographic information, or data sets from private entities like real estate firms, local businesses, and insurance companies. In essence, it's any data set that may provide insight into potential crime patterns that can be used to develop predictive models. So simply put, predictive analytics uses large volumes of data to forecast the who, what, where, and when of crime risk. Artificial intelligence, on the other hand, can forecast outcomes, but also perceive, learn, and act with a degree of autonomy. Now, both do hold tremendous potential for enhancing public safety. However, if the data used to train these systems reflect historical biases, as mentioned, there is a significant risk that they may reinforce and amplify existing inequalities, creating a feedback loop that perpetrates systemic biases that have historically influenced data. Predictive models are only as objective as the information on which they are trained. When historical data sets reflect unequal patterns of policing or systemic discrimination, these biases can be replicated and even magnified through algorithmic predictions. As a result, communities that have been subject to higher levels of surveillance in the past may continue to be disproportionately targeted, reinforcing cycles of distrust and inequality. Further, as mentioned by the deputy, the complexity of algorithmic systems often makes it difficult to understand how predictions are generated or decisions are made. And this lack of clarity can erode public confidence, particularly when individuals or communities perceive that these technology-driven policing operates without sufficient oversight or recourse for uses that go outside of its intended purposes. The ethical use of AI and predictive analytics, therefore, extends beyond technical accuracy. It requires a commitment to engage communities in discussions about how these technologies are used and how their data are represented to ensure that these tools serve the public interest rather than undermine it. Community input provides valuable context that algorithms alone cannot capture, such as lived experiences, perceptions of safety, and insights into how policing practices affect trust and legitimacy. In essence, fostering dialogue between law enforcement agencies and the communities they serve is not simply an ethical obligation. It's a practical necessity for achieving legitimacy, fairness, and long-term public safety. Predictive analytics and artificial intelligence in policing do more than change how data is analyzed. They influence how communities experience public safety. These technologies directly affect the people and neighborhoods under their scope, which is why community voices must be part of the conversation from the very beginning, which is what we're seeing here today. So for one, community insights offer practical effectiveness because they provide essential context that data alone cannot capture. Local knowledge, such as why certain areas may generate higher volumes of 911 calls, can inform how predictive tools are designed, interpreted, and deployed. Meaningful engagement not only improves accuracy, but also reduces resistance and fosters cooperation between residents and law enforcement. 2, predictive systems learn from historical data that may reflect patterns of over-policing or systemic discrimination. And without community participation, these biases can remain hidden within the algorithms, perpetrating inequities. Residents contribute lived experiences that help identify where the data or the assumptions that are built into it may be incomplete or misleading. Community perspectives act as an important safeguard against unintentional harms that can help increase fairness and detect bias. 3, decisions about surveillance, privacy, and civil liberties are not merely technical matters. They're fundamentally issues related to our democratic rights. Including community perspectives, particularly those who may be most affected by police practices, ensures that the deployment of technology aligns with shared social values, such as equity, accountability, and justice. And this inclusive approach helps maintain ethical boundaries while preserving democratic legitimacy. And this leads to what we all want: public trust, and this is central to effective policing. When any AI-driven tool, including those with predictive capabilities, are implemented without community input, they can appear imposed, undermining transparency and confidence. By contrast, collaborative engagement demonstrates respect, promotes understanding, and strengthens the legitimacy and trust in both the technology and the institutions that use it. Public perceptions are vital and very much influences my own research. Therefore, to better understand how the public perceives the use of artificial intelligence and predictive analytics in policing, I retained Environics, a survey research company, to conduct a national random sample of over 2,000 respondents across Canada. While the sample is representative of the Canadian population in most respects, I intentionally gathered additional Black and Indigenous participants to capture the perspectives of a subset of the Canadian population who have historically faced discriminatory treatment from law enforcement agencies across Canada. This is among the first national study to explore public attitudes on this topic, offering valuable insights into how people view the growing role of AI in law enforcement. But what makes these findings particularly meaningful is that they reflect not only opinions about technology, but also the values and expectations that communities hold about fairness, transparency, and accountability in modern policing. So although the results are still preliminary, they do reveal some interesting trends about awareness, support, and concern regarding the use of AI in policing. Nearly 70% of respondents said that they had not heard about the use of AI technologies in policing, highlighting a significant gap in public awareness. This lack of awareness is significant. It suggests that while AI tools are increasingly shaping policing practices, the public remains largely uninformed about their existence or purpose. And it also suggests that conversations about ethical and responsible AI in policing are occurring largely within institutional or expert circles with limited community participation. Once again, this is not happening here. Without broad understanding or visibility, efforts to build informed consent, transparency, and accountability may be undermined from the very beginning, which may explain why opinions about its use are divided. Roughly half of our Canadians expressed support for AI in law enforcement, while the other half were indifferent or opposed. Indigenous respondents were the least supportive, whereas Black and South Asian respondents were the most supportive. When asked about specific AI applications, respondents expressed the greatest concern about predictive systems, particularly those designed to identify or forecast high-risk individuals. Black, Indigenous, and other racialized respondents reported higher levels of concern than their white counterparts. Similar patterns emerge regarding predictive tools used to identify high-risk areas, with South Asian respondents expressing the highest concern. These findings suggest that the public remains cautious about the potential for AI tools to overreach or misrepresent individuals or communities, especially among racialized groups. Interestingly, while 60% of participants believe police are transparent and ethical in their use of AI, 40% did not share this confidence. And this level of skepticism signals an important issue for police agencies to address. Trust is not solely built on technical performance or compliance. It also depends on an openness and ongoing communication about how AI technologies are used within the communities they serve. Without confidence in the transparency and ethics, even well-intentioned innovations risk being met with resistance or doubt. So taken together, these preliminary findings convey a clear message. Many people remain unaware of how AI is being used in policing, and predictive systems in particular elicit uncertainty and concern. For police services, this presents both a challenge. However, it also presents an opportunity to strengthen transparency, communication, and community engagement so that innovation in public safety develops alongside with informed public trust. In the survey, I also explored what the public believes should guide or limit the use of artificial intelligence in law enforcement. Their responses point to several consistent priorities, principles that can serve as practical and ethical guardrails for agencies moving forward. Transparency is number one. The public wants clarity. People want to know what AI systems are being used within police agencies and how they function. Open communication about these technologies, such as what they do, their intended purpose, and their limitations, helps to build understanding and reduce misconceptions. Transparency is the first step towards trust. 2, accountability. Respondents also emphasize the importance of ensuring that AI tools are used responsibly. They want police services to communicate the measures in place to guarantee ethical use, such as oversight processes, data audits, and evaluation mechanisms. Demonstrating accountability shows that technology complements rather than replaces human judgment and professional integrity. Consultation. Participants emphasize the need for ongoing consultation with communities, especially those most affected by emerging technologies. Meaningful engagement requires transparency from police about how these systems shape responses and which communities are most impacted. It also involves informing the public about the policies, rules, and guiding principles governing AI use, and actively seeking feedback as those frameworks evolve. Genuine consultation demonstrates that citizens' voices play a vital role in shaping the responsible use of technology in policing. And finally, many respondents express support for clear national legislation to help provincial governments establish consistent standards for the ethical use of AI specific to law enforcement agencies. Federal oversight can help ensure that innovation remains transparent, equitable, and accountable, reinforcing public confidence that ethical safeguards are not optional, but expected from the agencies that are tasked to serve and protect our communities. These perspectives underscore a clear message from the public. Trust in these systems is not possible without transparency, accountability, and collaboration. And as we consider the practical implementation of AI in policing, these guardrails provide a foundation for responsible innovation. Ultimately, effective policing in the age of AI depends as much on trust and transparency as on the technology itself. When innovation is guided by ethics and shaped by the people it serves, it has the potential to become a true instrument of public good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy and Kanika. I just motioned to drop the mic. It was a lot of the same sentiments and I'm getting out of the research, and so thank you so much for that overview. Good evening, everyone. My name is Claudia McCoy. I am the founder of Surgeons, and I designed and led the engagement strategy dubbed Peeling Back AI that included surveys, in-person meetings, group meetings, one-on-ones, online discussions, and information sessions with subject matter experts, which was a very truly collaborative effort between residents, community leaders, and Peel Regional Police. Together, we worked to explore how AI, including machine learning, can be used to in policing to serve our communities even better. What emerged from the process was a statement of statement of 7 key principles. Of how AI can serve community well-being by promoting collective trust and fairness and human dignity. First, as you mentioned, transparency. I also want to give, before I start to walk right through the principles and how they relate with the adoption of AI in general, and particularly machine learning, is that these principles that were developed with the community in such a way of looking at the utmost way that we can protect human dignity and rights. They are very ideal and have inside them embedded narratives that can actually compete with one another. These tensions are going to be needed to be addressed with ongoing communication with the community, as well as with subject matter experts, to actually define where one of these principles will end and start. And also, Peel Regional Police and many of us do not work in a vacuum. We work with legislation that will be things that we were going to have to adopt and figure out how we're going to make sure that our adoptions of Peel of the 7 principles really reflect the needs right here in Peel. So with that framework, we start with transparency, which states the classic, nothing about us without us. It calls for a commitment to openness that is necessary for internal review and public knowledge of the adoption and deployment of AI. Thus, transparency requires PRP to offer the community a plain language, and that's the key, plain language, because this can get really complicated. Descriptions of what AI systems can do, the types of data being used, and how accuracy and fairness are measured. When communities can understand the overall process, they feel more included and they are indeed empowered. Transparency and accountability in both survey and community communication found that they're twin sisters. You really can't have accountability without transparency. So they're actually twinned. And when we got back the information, you would see that pairing happening constantly. And so accountability really states AI use requires human guidance. Accountability thus links the responsibility of every stage of AI adoption and use to a human empowered with oversight capabilities and, keyword, authority. You must be empowered to oversee. In every stage we hear, or in every engagement, I was hearing the community say versions of this statement. If machine makes a mistake, who's responsible in one way or another? And so the accountability means that the systems do not absolve people of responsibility. In fact, they reinforce it. Thus, the principle calls for clear lines of human ownership over the entire operational cycle of AI adoption. Next, we have the principle of privacy, which incorporates methods to ensure that data that needs to remain silent is indeed silent. The inclusion of privacy protections throughout AI adoptions endorses the safeguarding of personal data for residents. This was key. We'll get more into that in the next session, I believe. The security principle promotes systems that are consistent, reliable, and accurate. The establishment of secure protocols ensure that AI tools functions as promised to deliver safe, reliable, accurate information and outcomes. To ensure secure systems, it will be necessary to develop methods that detect operational shifts beyond the welcome adaptive insights of AI, particularly machine learning systems, learning from new inputs or rather than a simple break. So I'm going to say that again. We're going to be able to identify where machine learning is simply just learning and putting out really new information for us to observe and analyze, from a moment where the system breaks or shifts from the data inputs or analytic or algorithmic designs or language model designs. So it's going to be a very important process. And I will talk a little later about how community can actually be a part of that. In fact, when asked what principles should govern a scenario in which machine learning is used to analyze historical crime data, behavior patterns, and witness descriptions to narrow down suspect lists and allocate resources effectively, the community chose security as its number one principle. The system must produce reliable profiles to avoid false accusations or misdirected investigations. Here, the principle of security is seen to support both the principle of efficiency and human-centered values and human rights. I will argue all principles lead back to human rights. Upholding the principle of security, then, helps systems to be safe from breach and external manipulations, as well as ensuring people are safe from unintended consequences and harm. It's important to note that the community can also co-identify what harms mean locally. This ensures that PRP is empowered to expand effective policing by harvesting local trust and insights. The principle that safeguards human-centered values and human rights really says this: AI must be by us and for us. AI adoption needs to be designed and grounded in human-centered values, emphasizing dignity, inclusivity, and fairness. This principle that grounds all other principles. Machine learning often operates on patterns, but people are not patterns. There are stories, histories, and contexts. Our human-centered values and human rights principles remind us that AI must always defer to human judgment, not replace it, as accountability refers as well. Thus, Peel residents want PRP human leadership to direct the decisions, which may include technological insights, but are governed by human rights, equity, and community input. In fact, when asked how AI should be adopted to better serve our communities, the residents of Peel gave the response: by respecting core human rights values. This topped the weighted score of all other principles. Out of a perfect score of 6, the community gave it 5.11. Efficiency means more capacity for effective policing. The use of machine learning must increase operational capacities, reduce response times, and improve effectiveness to retain its legitimacy. Machine learning promises efficiency, faster insight, quicker response, better resource allocations. The community has already bought into it. When asked what principle of AI can be truly delivered, the community chose efficiency, believing AI can indeed improve operational speed and precision. The community, however, also holds that efficiency should be used to enable the other principles, specifically human-centered values and rights and community well-being. Thus, machine learning must be used to serve our community better. The successful adoption of the previous 6 principles create a path for AI adoption to become an inclusive tool to enhance collective health, trust, equity, and resilience. The community well-being principle reminds us why this conversation is happening in the first place. The goal is not simply about adopting AI, it's about to improve the conditions of life here in Peel. Machine learning should and can serve the collective good with faster, fairer service, safer communities, and stronger relationships. That means PRP must deploy tools with machine learning capacities in a manner that seeks to address our community needs, reduce disparities, and strengthen trust. Every AI system must answer one question before deployment. Does this contribute to well-being of our community? And PRP does not need to be answering this alone. It has the community. Our local community service providers, when asked, they have overwhelmingly been willing to collaborate with PRP to design and launch community initiatives that will allow for the safe place to test new deployment and analyze AI tools, outcomes, and impact. This is a testimony not only to the people that serve Peel population, but also the trust that the population here in Peel has in the work that PRP is doing. Such activities will also allow PRP and our communities to explore together whether the tools function as promised and what should be considered good outcomes. A partnered process will support local community services and increase capacities to better serve our region. PRP will have gained additional insights on how to use the AI tools, especially on those relying on machine learning, plays out in multiple scenarios to impact our community. Thus, helping to create social human AI tools, configurations that best serve our communities. Such collaborations will enable PRP to develop community-informed benchmarks and establish a robust guide for day-to-day operational guidance to best actualize the statement of principles as it continues to adopt AI tools. This may introduce new layers of automation with PRP leadership and personnel will have to monitor and oversee and ensuring that these decisions that include machine learning insights remain ultimately human. And so with that, I would like to close by saying, through Peeling Back AI, our community did something extraordinary. It claimed a seat at the table of the technological design. By co-authoring these principles with the community, Peel Regional Police showed leadership by opening up the dialogue and by making space for residents to influence how AI systems shape the future of public safety. But principles only matter when they're lived in practice. That means testing algorithms publicly with safe collaboration contexts, publishing results, and keeping communities in the loop at every stage. Engage, engage, engage. It means ensuring that machine learning is never about control. It's about caring and collaboration and co-design. If we stay true to these 7 principles, transparency, privacy, security, efficiency, human-centered, and values and rights, it changes AI from being an ambiguous tool to a tool of effective empowerment. And when that happens, we have built not just a smarter system, but stronger communities. And I thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I did start off by saying we brought some subject matter experts, and they have truly lived up to the title. The information shared here by Dr. Kanika Samuels-Wortley and Claudia McCoy certainly informs our conversation so that as we hear from the delegates who are going to speak next, we hope first that the conversation will be still focused in the same area of AI, and that was one of the goals of kind of structuring the presentations the way we have, so that the conversation is not like all over the place. So machine learning and all of those conversations, I think the theme that was coming, whether it is from the Peeling Back AI surveys or community consultations or the survey done by the professor, underscores the importance of transparency and accountability and the desire for community to be included in consultations. So that's what this evening is all about. This is why we're here. And so I'm going to take the first delegation, who is from Satish Giri. Is it Giri or Giri? Giri? Oh, I think my co-chair after Satish? Okay, no problem. We'll take, so Satish, as you're coming forward, we have 4 individuals who will be doing deputations this evening. We'll start off with Satish. Someone is also online. But at the end, we will also have a brief moment when we'll be able to, take a little bit questions, have a little bit of conversation. So if you're thinking about something that you'd like to contribute, please make some notes. And we'll have a roving microphone so that you don't have to come and sit like you're doing a delegation. We'll be able to take a microphone. You see, we're also learning. The first session we learned that people were not as comfortable coming forward. So now we have a roaming microphone for you. So think about if you want to make a contribution. So welcome, Satish. Over to you.
And I've been in the tech industry for quite a long time, over a decade. And I have worked on a platform like conversational AI and voice analytics and cloud platform as well. So, thank you so much for having me here. Today, I'm going to talk about impact of conversational AI. I think probably a less word people have heard so far, conversational AI on in public safety, and specifically for 911 operations and AI role play. Before we start, imagine a situation where the cars collide on the road and there's chaos out there, lots of sirens, lots of people talking to each other, and all of a sudden a bypasser is calling 911, trying to explain the situation. But he's not in his senses properly because of the chaos happening, trying to speak in English, and then switching back to the native language, and again coming back to the English. All of a sudden, another bypasser pick up his phone and trying to speak, again in broken English, and switching to another native language. Now on the same 911 call, there is a 2 native language and the broken English and other English. Now dispatcher is doing all of his best to understand all the information coming out of that call and whether or not what information they can collect in terms of how many people are hurt, whether or not the car has fled or the driver has fled the scene, all those stuff. But it's tough. It's very, very tough in that situation. Using conversational AI, we can actually resolve such issues. Let's see how. Couple of key focus areas. I would just like to start with the real-time language analysis. Using acoustic modeling and speech modeling, what we can do is we can actually refine the translate the recording which we are getting out of the 911 calls, refine it, ensure that there is a transcription of multiple language into English. One data set coming out of the multiple language, and that will help you with the real-time language analysis, providing certain insights which might be missed in that kind of chaotic calls. Impact on the community, definitely equitable emergency access. It can also provide you a good amount of pattern detection. Once we have the data, the speech data translated, transcribed into the text data, we can actually introduce a lots of patterns and understand certain voice data like tone and stress, and the system can actually flag those stuff based on what actually a human is hearing. The system can detect the tone. If the person is in stress, if person is in anger, system can detect the tone using the language modeling, and also provide certain patterns and uncover certain threats or even more severe crime like domestic violence, and etc. The impact, optimizing dispatch, probably understanding what is the situation, how many folks we need there, those kind of a decision making can happen. With the automatic data structuring, definitely once we have the data in the system, we can massage the chaotic call data and gain certain insights as well as searchable reports out of the data. So once we have those data, even in real time and also historical data, we can infuse it with the generative AI to understand or to gain more insights out of that. How we can use it? Definitely reducing dispatcher stress and also in the investigations. So that is more about how conversational AI can make an impact on 911. Let's talk about something related to the training, infusing conversational AI with the virtual reality. Imagine a situation. You have all sort of real-time scenarios out of the community and infused it with the virtual reality and giving the honorable officers training to understand how the community look like. And that training includes multiple languages, people speaking multiple languages, people coming from different background, people using English, but different accent kind of English. Definitely require lots of language modeling, acoustic language modeling. It is not something I would say available right from on free for internet, because that require continuous monitoring, new jargons being spoken by the public. One has to detect that and infuse it with the local community language model. Peel language model or Peel community language model may differ from any other community language model, or that may differ from somewhere else. So that kind of technology or that kind of modeling, if we infuse it, we can achieve this kind of role play. How would it help it? Definitely de-escalation mastery. Officers can achieve de-escalation mastery because they know the culture now, because they have done practice or role play using VR with the conversational AI. Understanding cultural sensitivity. Everyone is coming out of different culture. Using this stack along with the virtual reality, as you can see on the picture, they can actually understand how to handle certain kind of situation or cultural people. Crisis response, this is one of the most favorite of mine because it talks about vulnerable folks, mental health folks. It tells about maybe someone what is speaking, they are speaking because of some mental health issues or some problem with them. Their speech is not proper. Using conversational AI, AI can fill the gap. Even though their intent is not clear on the call, with the AI providing you output, it can fill up the gap and give you at least 95% of correct intent, which is great. So that kind of crisis response will be improved with our honorable officers, which provides you better outcome with the vulnerable individuals.
So Satish, if you could just wrap up in another minute, just respect for the other participants this evening. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm done. So.
Oh, okay. Perfect timing.
So that is about it. So that's how we can use conversational AI to empower our officers to serve our community better. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you for your deputation. Thanks for the contribution you have made to the conversation. And again, it just demonstrates we're learning from all of what the input we're receiving this evening. And I want to point out, the intent is not for us to pretend we have all the answers already and to answer all the questions you may have. In fact, if you do have questions, we may have to take some of them away. So just be forewarned that we're not going to be answering all the questions. That's not the intent of the session. It's more a listening and to hear what are some of the questions you have as a community. So thanks, Satish, for sharing. Awesome. I think the next person we have is the person, Danny, who's coming in online. Is he ready? No, not yet. So we're going to go to Jitesh. Jitesh is here. Okay, fantastic. welcome Jitesh, and it's Parik. And I believe we had given each a participant a 5-minute. Okay, perfect. So over to you.
Thank you. Okay. My name is Jitesh Parik, and I'm founder of Ventura Data Solutions Incorporation. We actually work on machine learning, AI, and robotics area. However, I'm actually qualified to be part of this presentation because I'm terrorism policing certified from Metropolitan Police, United Kingdom, as well as I'm a GTU, Georgetown University, certified on terrorism and counterterrorism. I'm also a part of a community partner with Durham Regional Police Service and York Regional Police Service, where I actually facilitate and help youth in policing initiatives from those two policing departments. Very interesting topic. The next slide, if I can get that. Thank you. So if you carefully understand the predictive policing uses the data and algorithms anticipate to potential crime, and eventually when we do that, if we have to take clearance from all aspects of our legislation, our mandate, and our proclamation to see that we are not shielding the criminal activity or not shielding biases in a way that actually impacts the community, that is the very aspect we are trying to do a good for them. So that's where our professors walked us through, and we learned from the importance of the community voices. And in shaping this policy is to actually listen, and listen more to get the accurate outcome in the benchmarks. Next slide. So what actually makes us more better is that clean data. Clean data means the data which is actually fed right from the pro nodes of the policing, and which is with the clarity of the mind. So a lot goes with the training of those policemen on the front line to have a clean data to be input without biases, without putting into any influence from the different metrics of the people who try to influence a particular case in a particular way, a particular societal norms. So we have a lot to learn from the whole aspects of cultural as well as social gathering which we have. We live in a very diverse environment, so we try to place ourselves like, what is important for us to have a clean data. And based on that geographic trends and demographics, we need to put our data into action, into machine learning algorithms that identifies patterns and generates the forecast. The forecasts have a particular way of connecting not only with the local municipality, but the global sentiment in a particular way. Like if you see carefully, Maryland in University of USA is working in a way that actually makes everybody accountable for whether it is on the real time actually, so that if somebody is landing, a criminal is landing in their airport, they can definitely take account of the public safety and community safety aspects of the things. Unfortunately, in Canada, we do have a lot of repository of the data which is not fairly placed in RCMP as well as our policing departments when we see about the transnational crimes going on. And that's where we have issues related to invasion, issues related to the theft of the cars, theft of the something which is going on throughout the community safety halls, which we have a discussion for. Next slide, please. The potential benefits of this whole process is actually having an efficient allocation of the police resources, faster response in high-risk areas, less stress to the police people actually, and less stress to the community as well, as we do first time do things right, and data-driven insights for crime prevention, support community safety when applied fairly. So fairness is very important. I would suggest, I have seen one of the cases in a very, very difficult aspect of, as is the Satish I mentioned, that sometimes it is a conversational issue about the policing taking the feed, and they are not able to understand the proper English about the South Asian or other accents. And what happens in that whole gap of understanding, the police believes that some person is having a mental health issue may not be suffering from the mental health issue. And eventually there is no proper verifications because our educational program as well as our different psychiatric departments are not in correct holiness, like, with the African as well as Asian and other aspects of psychiatry. So those are the things which we saw in the way that unnecessarily some people go through the ordeal of being tagged as mental or illness or stigma they face due to the lack of the communication, lack of the funneling to their rights. And there is a vast amount of infringement of rights being taken place in that arena, to which I currently see visualizing many aspects of our policing parameters are not updated or reformed. So that's where the supports of the community safety men have been applied fairly. Next slide, please. And community concerns is about all the ways the professor explained about the risk of the bias in the algorithms and historical inequities. It does happen that we do have extreme amount of historical inequities due to the so many cultures and so many ways of legacy rules are implemented in different parts of the world. And situationally, we are really facing an unfairness to the bottom line in a way that has been repressed or oppressed in a way. Potential over policing of marginalized groups. And this is also one, as explained by Professor, transparency and accountability issues. Privacy concern with surveillance and data and collection of the data is that many data which are collected are sometimes influenced by a thumb of tyrant, and that needs to be also identified in a way that makes sense to the democracy that such people need to be accountable for. Next slide, please. Quick key questions for the Peel region. How do we ensure the fairness and accountability? What safeguards prevents discriminatory outcomes? How can communities be engaged in oversight? Should focus be resource support or enforcement? And these are some of the critical questions which are pivotal to the exact algorithms which can be designed. And next slide, please. Communities' perspectives are need for trust building between police and community. We should have more communities safety town halls for us into every different areas where people can voice out with their concerns, and they can be documented and they can be rehearsed and shared with the think tank and good policing attributes. Inclusive dialogues and diverse voices at the table, which definitely I know PRP is doing an amazing job on that. Balanced innovation with civil rights protection. So innovation needs to be enabled in a way that the civil rights are protected, nobody's rights are infringed, and everybody has a fair chance to justice. It should not be the kingdom of the police, it should be the kingdom of the democracy as well as the way it works. Independent audits and transparency reports. So whenever that is taken place, it creates more fairness, more accountability, more transacting. And with the closing is that the predictive policing has potential but real risk. Community trust and safeguards are critical. Policies must reflect safety and fairness, and it is all about the safety and fairness for each of the individual as well as the police as well as the entire community. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Absolutely, and thank you, Jitesh, for sharing. I know we brought our own experts, but experts came in to join us, and we value your contribution. Thank you. We're going to have Ravinder Pal Singh, who is our last deputant this evening, and the other person who was planning to be here can't make it, so he has donated back his 5 minutes to you in the audience. So we'll give you that 5 minutes to have some general feedback and comments. So over to you, Ravinder.
Thank you, and
Yeah, press it again. One more time. Press the thing again. Perfect.
is it fine? Okay. Thank you and good evening to everyone. My name is Ravinder Pal Singh, and I have been a technologist throughout last 30 years, out of which last 18 years of my life I have been working only with emerging technologies, 38 different countries, 5 continents. and executing projects which started more as an imaginary concept some years ago, and we find today that it's all around us. AI, as we call it, or artificial intelligence, we have been hearing this ever since we have heard technology. But this is the time. And today morning, I woke up to a news. I'm sure some of you would have read that OpenAI, the brain behind ChatGPT, have pioneered a device which every person will wear, and that device is going to collect data when you walk, when you play, when you sleep, when you work. How AI is getting more and more pervasive in our life, we don't know where it reaches. But I want to just touch one aspect of artificial intelligence, which our esteemed professors alluded to, the predictive analytics. But within that, I will specifically talk about behavioral analytics. Now, why behavioral analytics is becoming more and more important and critical, especially when it comes to policing. There is a science behind it which says that by looking at the behavior of a person, you can identify his intentions. Now, it might sound a bit aggressive, but the fact is that I have personally delivered some projects by using the power of behavioral psychological analysis along with data, creating a layer which can actually tell people that, hey, this person who is walking behind you is actually going to do something wrong with you. Now, the only thing what AI cannot tell you, and I believe can never tell you, is what exactly is he going to do. Is he going to slap you? Is he going to hit you? Is he going to stab you or rob you? Nobody can tell that because that is here. And there's no science today which can read exactly the mind. But in last 7 to 8 years, I've seen practical implementation. I'll talk practical implementations only with different policing, law enforcement, and military organizations across Indonesia, South Korea, India, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and these are the places where I worked. Now, what happens today when we talk of predictive analytics, the science behind that, and we look at a person's behavior, which camera cannot catch. In spite of having so many cameras, millions of cameras, mostly we use those for post-mortem when something happens. Hey, what happened? When did it happen? And who did it? But cameras at 20 feet higher on the streets in pitch dark cannot identify the exact person. But the same camera, with the help of AI and behavioral analytics, actually tell you, hey, the person walking behind you is going to do something bad. Or person just walking next to your car around 11 p.m. outside your home is actually trying to steal your car. Now, something which is happening all around us today. So the whole motto and objective of behavioral analytics and AI should be from a policing mechanism, rather than looking at what happened, who did it, it should actually move to saying, can we prevent this to happen? If we are able to even prevent 50% of those incidents, I think the policing becomes more easier and more helpful and more community specific. Today, when we talk of introducing cameras, we're also looking at introducing the layers of AI behind it, whether it catches somebody driving on the road with a mobile phone in hand, and by the time you reach home, you have the penalty notice at your home. But then we also look at examples which happened recently in Toronto, where a lady who had a medical problem and she was prescribed by doctor to keep an ice pack here while driving, which she had. And what she got at home was a penalty notice of using mobile phone while driving. She was not using mobile phone. Now the question is, who is wrong here? Is AI wrong? Is camera wrong? Is the whole policy wrong? So the idea is the work, the community engagement, what police has to do with community on one side and law enforcement people on the other side. I think this whole behavior analytics will play a very, very critical role here. At least with 95.6%, that is the measured accuracy, 95.6%. It has not gone beyond yet. 95.6% accuracy. AI and data is able to tell us in advance, hey, this person, this thing, or this scenario is not correct. Something bad is going to happen. If we are able to look at that, if we are able to capitalize on that, leverage that, and prevent even 50% of incidents, I think life and society's life will become even more easier and more peaceful. Every day we wake up to some incident, especially everywhere. I'm not saying it happens only here in Peel or in Toronto. It happens everywhere. I have lived in multiple countries. It's happening in Dubai also. It's happening in India, Bangalore, Delhi also. But now the whole model is shifting from a post-mortem thing saying who did it, when did it happen, what time it was, what kind of person was he. Rather than that, why can't we look at using the role of behavior analytics to tell, can I prevent it? Preventive analytics, predictive analytics led by AI can actually make things much easier. The crimes which are happening all around us, rather property crimes or automobile crimes or even what we call severe crimes like shooting. I just circulated a video where somebody uses the sound of bullets fitted in a speaker put on his rooftop, and when somebody is trying to come to his house and trying to take a gun, the camera tells him, hey, somebody is trying to take a gun, he might shoot. So before he shoots, you should start shooting, which means there is a sound. And this person who is taking the gun out, he leaves the gun and runs away. That is the power of behavior analytics, what we can induce and embed in our daily policing aspects. It doesn't take much, believe me, it doesn't take much. It's just the use of the right data at the right time and use of that science behind it called behavior analytics. So with that, I don't want to take much time. So I'm not going through the slides, but more a storytelling thing. So what I believe is the right use of data, right use of AI and predictive analytics can make our lives much easier, much better, both for the police as well as for common citizens. Thank you very much and have a great evening ahead.
Thank you so much, Ravinder, for your insightful comments. And so we have heard from our delegates, we have heard from our professor and our deputy chief. It's your turn. If you have any thoughts, again, we want to not exhaust the time, but I'm going to start off with my deputy, my vice chair, Samita, who had indicated earlier she had a comment or question for one of our...
Yeah, the professor.
Professor? Okay.
It's on. Yay. I just had a question about the survey you had done. So it was a Canadian national survey. I was just curious because the results were actually kind of interesting. It was higher than I anticipated of their understanding. I know it's still a low number, but compared to what I thought. So I was just curious, do you have an idea of the breakdown of kind of the province, like even though it's Canada-wide, which areas, like, where you got your population?
Okay, I see it's red, so I can speak. So that's where it's quite preliminary at this moment. So I've indicated that the Canadian population, not very many, are aware of its use. And now I'm going to start breaking it down by provinces, gender, also socioeconomic status, but I'm also looking at other variables that are quite important, such as folks perhaps that have had contact with police quite often, because maybe these folks might be more aware of AI and policing because they're more cognizant of what's going on in the policing world. So there are a number of variables that I'm going to be exploring and looking to release that data by the end of the year. So it's coming, but at this time I haven't done a deep dive. Absolutely. Yep.
All right. I see 2 hands so far, and our Councillor Reid, right beside Angela there, has a comment, and then I see your hand right after.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation tonight. And I just wanted to add a little bit of color to what the community consultations looked like. We had Claudia come to my constituency, to my ward, and we did some advertising and got some people to come to a community center to understand more about AI and policing and how these parts work. And the people that came out were a cross-section of people who know lots about AI. There was an older gentleman who has been involved in AI for 20 years, and he talked about the iterations of it, and then we had people who were just scared about it. So Claudia did a great job of guiding the conversation and asking those questions that we want to really answer in terms of community safety. So thank you, Claudia, for that, and thank you, Doctor, for your presentation today. And I just wanted to highlight, like we were saying, the commitment to a dialogue with the community. is the most important part of this, is that how do we engage our community in these dialogues so that they feel that they're a part of it instead of it just being something that's introduced to them and almost like we're imposing it on them without them having an opinion on it. So my question for you just in general is, how do we actually get the community to engage on a deeper level with this? And because there's so many ways that we do this, but I feel like we have the same people who show up and the same people have the same opinions, and the people who are against it remain against it, and the people who are for it remain for it. So how do we get new people into the room so we can actually introduce them to the concepts like we're seeing here today, and get more people engaged?
So that's part of our exercise today. We're trying to create that environment, but I'm going to defer that question over to the people who are accustomed to doing community engagement. They're right over here.
Ah, there it goes. Red. Go. So thank you, Counselor. You hit on something that's really important. The process was trial and error. It wasn't a straight line. It was, what I was really appreciative of was the process that when we had our initial conversation with Peel Regional Police, they were really committed to the concept of co-design. Many times when you go to a lot of consultations, specifically in law enforcement, you have a topic that's usually really complex, and then you have a row of officers talking to the community for maybe 3 hours, and then they walk away, right? And usually people revert back into speaking about things that they know, maybe being pulled over or so forth. What we designed here was really, we had a concept at the beginning, which we tried on micro. So I started in Malton, tried with a few people to figure out what does a conversation look like. We even had a quiz to figure out what the difference in AI literacy looked like, and then how to synthesize these conversations. So one, just the how, and I'll get to inviting new people, was we started to use larger concepts, more open concept that people felt that they could embrace. So the opening question was, and we found out that a lot of people looked at AI as a magical wand. So we started to ask the question, if AI is indeed a magical wand, what would you like it to do? And that opened up people to dream and to turn away from thinking of AI, which you hear in the media, from a very kind of fearful, suspicious, to a hopeful, how can we redesign our communities with new technology? So having that took people who felt like, I can't be a part of this conversation, I don't know anything about AI, to I know about my neighborhood, and these are the things I want from my neighborhood, and this is empowering me to speak about my neighborhood while I'm learning about new concepts. How I tried multiple different ways. Working with counselors like yourself really helped, right? Lending that legitimacy really, really helped. The other part of it was calling people, building that base, putting things on public. We sent out about 6,000 to 6,000 people at very different times. Some people wanted to engage online. Some people wanted to engage only one-on-one. Some people wanted to engage in groups. So you have different methodologies that you have to kind of execute. So we wanted to also, by the way, counselor, to keep the groups very, very tight. We didn't want it to be a town hall where someone could hide their emotions. We wanted people to feel really engaged. And the other thing that we did that was really unique was that we didn't do a one and done. There was layers of engagement so that people who needed more time to digest the information could come back and respond back. There was also a portal where people could actually look, read, and then comment. Because some people need that. Other people need actual engagement. And then there were other people who had different community stakeholding position, which were the community service groups that then they wanted to work with PRP to actually have these safe place of deployment to test. It's going to just, to directly answer your question about more people, it's going to require time, engagement, bringing in more community leadership into the fold, and having hand-to-hand combat with the community in a loving and collaborative way. I really like the idea that, and really the privilege that PRP allowed to have a wave-like engagement, meaning we came back and forth as opposed to a one and done. And I've been told that this process will, in one form or another, continue, because as the AI adopts, more people will need to be in place. And we were able, just like you, we were just touched the surface of the community. There are so many more people to go. So thank you so much for your question.
Yeah, do you have a follow-up or?
Yeah, just a little bit. I don't want to take up too much time. I just want to say on that, the trust and the follow-through is very important. And even for tonight, if you as a board could send out a, in case you missed it, or here's the replay type of post for those who couldn't make it, who weren't able to watch tonight, I think that would be helpful. Because even throughout the meeting, I was sending it to some of my community members to say, like, this is live right now, and this is the follow-up from the meeting that we did in the community. So people understand that it wasn't just a one and done. We're building trust, and we're continuing to build that trust. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And go ahead, Professor.
Waiting for the red.
Yes.
There we go. I think I echo many of the things that Claudia has mentioned, and think it's great that you're raising the issue that we need to get more collaboration between communities. And I'm speaking from an experience and something that I saw in some of the work that I did in Australia, but looking at the way that civilian oversight agencies engage with their communities. And what they do is they actually have a team and they go out where they announce, we're going to be in this area, we're going to be talking about this issue. If you're interested, come on out, and we will later have another, broader discussion where we're bringing community members in. But the first step is actually going out to the community. Because I think with some of the issues that we have is that all of us, we're living our everyday lives, we're busy people, we might not even know that something is affecting us until it actually does. And then you'll have folks say, well, I didn't know that this was happening. I didn't know that there were conversations and consultations. And it's true that folks may not know simply because they were not aware or do not have access to social media. Or do not have access to, or don't watch TV, whatever it may be. But when folks have the willingness, particularly from the police side, to go out to the community, that's when you can start bridging those conversations with people and then bringing bigger conversations within a space like this. But it is, the first step is to have folks on the police side going out and saying, we are going to come out and we are going to be in this area talking about this, and please come out. And usually that's when you start seeing a visual representation of the police talking about an issue where folks then start to realize it is something they should be paying attention to. That's helpful.
Awesome. I do see another hand. Thanks for your contributions. Okay, so the young lady in the back with the computer. No, she was first. That young lady was first. And then I also see your hand over here. Fire yourself if you're okay with doing that.
My name is Mina Hassanzada, and I'm doing my PhD at the University of Guelph, but born and raised in Mississauga, so I'm really excited to be here today. And my research actually intersects with some of the discussions we've had here today. So again, really glad, great insight. And I really appreciate the piece about accountability. And we can't talk about accountability without focusing on the systemic bias and racism. So I thought that was lovely that that came up. And since AI algorithms are dependent entirely on the data that it learns from, I'm curious to know how Peel is going to determine which data that's inputted is biased, and then what process is used to clean and sanitize that. And then more broader, what experts are being called upon to help determine what and where that bias lies. And then third part to my question, if the data collected from police officers is also going to be fed into the AI algorithm, how are we ensuring that our frontline officers have strong data literacy? Do they understand that the quality of the data that they're putting into the system is really integral to how this AI algorithm will work? Thanks.
Thank you so much for the question. And I did preface by saying we're not going to answer all the questions. Our goal is to hear the questions that you have, but I do have Deputy Chief with me, and he may have some perspective. Would you like to share something, Deputy Chief?
Okay, and good evening, and thank you for coming. Appreciate that. Listen, simply put, 5 years ago when we undertook a voluntary agreement with the Ontario Human Rights Commission and our community to identify and eliminate systemic racism in policing, we did so with the lens not to technology, not to efficiency, but to community well-being, as you heard before. Every single one of our technology implementations undergoes a strict lens of human rights. Understanding how data has impacted our communities over several generations of bias collection of data has been studied with academics that we have partnered with in and around the GTA, provincially, globally, to understand how we can, and I use this term properly, probably improperly, but I mean to clean our data. And that is with the lens of reviewing the data that we do have, which, by the way, the data that we collect is really social service data, health data, education data. When we show up at the footstep of someone's door in the worst moment of their lives, it is because they have been subjected to system discrimination along with public safety discrimination in most instances. So we have undertaken a data and analytics project. We're in year number 2 to answer your question more succinctly and precisely. Part of that project, which is enterprise-wide, organizational-wide, is a AI data literacy program that all our officers, including our senior leaders in command, must undergo and take, just like they would have to go to the police college and practice using their taser, for example. And that would be the amount of study, practice, and training that they would have to undergo. And then from there is the implementation of new rules and guidelines on how to collect data, specifically if AI is implemented. And I'll give you one final example before I turn it over to the chair. In the case of where AI is used to assist officers in writing a report, the concept of human in the loop must always be present. You heard me say that before when I was here. And nothing will ever take away the human oversight of a report that is an officer is accountable for. As a matter of fact, can I just say it's not human in the loop, it's humans in the loop. An officer, their supervisor, someone who inputs the data into our record system, and then someone who analyzes that data. So I don't think we have it perfect. I'm not sure we're going to get to perfect, but we're going to try, and we're going to use our expertise like you've heard here today and some of the other human rights focused initiatives to help guide us on our multi-year action plan.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. In Peel, I often say we have an embarrassment of riches in our leadership team. And I am proud to sit here as a civilian working alongside very qualified and able people in our leadership team like our Deputy Chief here. So thank you, who didn't know that question was coming and could answer it like that. I see one hand right here. Is there another hand, or is this the final hand? Oh, there's one more hand over here. Oh, and okay, everyone is getting brave now. All right, so we'll take it in that order.
My name's Kim Pines. I'm from Ward 3, Mississauga. I work with 2 residents associations. I get the PRP's newsletter, I get Crime Stoppers newsletters, I get my CommunityWatch.org newsletters, I get several councils and newsletters. I'm trying to understand when this outreach happened. I'm pretty tuned in, and this part I knew. Councillor Reid, good for you having that meeting. I'd like to know how many councillors actually had a similar meeting.
I wouldn't be able to tell you how many counselors have. Maybe Counselor Reed, you can maybe have a little conversation with some of your other. Claudia, have you been consulted with any other?
Sorry, they're popped in now. I talked to several counselors. It was, I had Natalie, Counselor Natalie Hart. I also had Counselor Reed. I spoke to other ones in Mississauga. It just didn't work out the same way, but I did a lot of outreach in those areas. So I know a lot of people, I'm not sure how, I can't really account how you missed, but I did post it, I sent out emails, I had other people reach out, but we had a strong response to the survey. We also had many meetings we had meetings to deal with bias. So I'm sorry that you missed it, but there are still more opportunities. It will not be
It might have been under a different thing than if it came under bias. I remember seeing one thing about that. How many people answered the survey?
We had 325.
225?
325.
Okay, so my next question is for the national survey. Was I correct? You said 2,000 people?
Yes,
Out
2,000
of 41 million?
So when it comes to having a representative sample,
Yeah.
even 1,000 is sufficient. It's a matter of getting as many people that are based from the Canadian population that can respond to that survey.
To me, is a very small data set. When you're talking large language models, I work in the language field myself, so that's small.
Sorry. No, go. It's just when it comes to conducting any surveys, and particularly it's not possible to interview or gather the voices and perspectives of every single Canadian. So it is important to make sure that you have a data set that is a representative sample. And that was something that I ensured that I had that does in fact represent the amount of racialized peoples that we have, the gendered aspect, age, everything is representative of our entire Canadian population. And that's the part that is important that you do have a sample of, and that is sufficient to speak to the Canadian population.
Yeah, it will come.
And sorry about that. And my sample, which was strictly for Peel, wasn't national-wide. That was plus and minus 6%, right? So keep in mind that this was, as I mentioned to Councillor Reed, this is a lot of trial and error. This was really the first step, and we expect that this narrative will get bigger and bigger. And please, I would love to sit back and have a conversation with you as well, at any time, anywhere. And I thank you for that. One of the things that I have to say is no matter how many people and how many campaigns, there's always one. With a population of what? We are around 2 million. We're getting Peel? Yeah, 1.6 million now. And also this area is very meaning there's a lot of people from different countries coming in and out. It's very, very difficult to say I would get 2 million people on the first shot. But what I can say is that or 1.6 million the first shot. But what I can say is that we have a dedicated crew of people with the intention to make sure that we have a representative voice. And you will hopefully, when you heard what we were talking about, some of your voice, some of your insights, some of your knowledge, some of your care for this region was reflected in the work that we've done.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Claudia. So I now have 3 hands, and that's going to be the limit for this evening. That's Sophia, that's right here, and then there are 2 other ladies on opposite sides. So wherever the microphone is, I can take it in any order.
Hello, my name is Sophia Jackson, and I'm a community member, an entrepreneur, and also on the Anti-Racism Advisory Committee. And I'm jumping off of what Councillor Reed said, Doctor, and then also Claudia, about reaching individuals. It's actually something I'm very passionate about. I wasn't going to speak, and then when I heard that topic come up, I was like, because this is a reoccurring theme just in general. And I think some of the, when you talked about having a magic wand, you know, if AI was a magic wand, there are certain communication devices or communication outlets or processes that are in place that we might not dare to use in this for things like this, like, you know, when an Amber Alert goes off on our phones, like it goes to everybody. And why wouldn't we, again, I might be sounding a little naive or maybe idealistic, but, or again, going on the premise of a magic wand, why couldn't we use something like that to notify people that a consultation is happening? If we really believe that it is that integral and that important. I'll use the example of, you know, I used to work in the Peel District School Board. I am in the social work space. And the school system, they have like where they can call or leave a voicemail like globally on individuals' phones. We have like during elections where the counselors will, pay for certain types of outreach, SMS, texting, on email. So there's so many things that can be utilized. The technology is there. I think it would even be more robust now that we have AI, where we could utilize, where we can reach people. And then to the doctor's point about having street teams and like going out, there's so many community events that happen that where we have individuals who are paid. And like, I think we're past the point from a social economic standpoint where we can expect people to volunteer their time, especially when we're talking about things like, having, I can't think of the word where government gives us money. Thank you. So to have like that be an occupation, like if we're really putting out, saying that we really want individuals to be aware of what's happening on, definitely with AI, but over just across the board, that we actually invest in having people going out to community events where you're seeing like at City Hall or downtown Toronto at Nathan Phillips Square or wherever there is an event, and then you have people out on the street actually engaging people with handouts, with pamphlets, and that we could really get more of a robust turnout and people not missing the message.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. So we'll go to the lady right behind.
Thank you so much. I'm Sharmina. I'm the founder and CEO of NovaShare. We're a geopolitical risk data analytics business and focus on law enforcement. So I just want to say thank you of all the key elements we heard from the deputy chief, and it was so refreshing. Also, just the effort to get survey information, the raw data that cuts through the bias. That's what our software is really trying to do. I have two questions. Maybe it's getting a little late, so if you don't want to answer them fully, I understand. One is, okay, now that you're going to collect all this survey data, beautiful, how are you going to integrate that in timely fashion in order to complete investigations that are time sensitive? So if there's, something related to transnational crime happening in Peel, how do you then take that data that's, so broad and sift through it in a way that, I'm just wondering, what's the step-by-step right now? You don't have to, give the best answer, but whatever you would think of, like, we have the survey information, what would we typically do on the investigative next steps? What's normal? And then training, what would you like to see in AI training, these AI agents that are being produced? Thank you so much.
I think that question would be more for our service. And again, great questions. Unless we want to take some feedback, we're kind of running out of time. So let's take the last person, and then if we have some final reactions from those at the table, including our deputy chief.
Hello and good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for holding this great consultation. Thank you to the subject matter experts. Thank you for sharing your insights, very, very helpful and insightful. My name is Varsha Dinodia, and I identify myself as a member of the public, humbled to be living in the jurisdiction of Peel Regional Police. I enhanced my knowledge from the previous session to today's session a little bit, and I did a little bit of research on AI when it comes to using AI-based technology when it comes to regional police. I learned that PRP applied and adopted facial recognition technology based on AI technology in 2024 using a third-party AI developer, pardon me for my pronunciation, namely IDEMIA, if I'm not wrong. And I researched more about this company when it comes to AI and how they use AI with law enforcement agencies. And I learned that AI had to fix one of the vulnerabilities late in December 2024 when QRP started using IDEMIA in FRT to protect the hackers to enter into the system. IDEMIA also faced some accusations and allegations when it came to Nepal passport system for creating some technical chaos there. My question here is, when we are using AI-based technology developed by third-party developers, how do we hold ourselves accountable for vendor assessments and ongoing vendor analysis as to whether they are good for our law enforcement agencies, whether they are applying ethical guidelines when it comes to AI technology, and how the information that they gather, based on which we gather and extract information from them, is in lines with Personal Information Protections and Electronic Documents Act, that is PIPEDA 2000. This is my question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your questions and for participating. I will open up just from some final comments, especially for the last questions to our Deputy Chiefs and any of our experts also to speak to. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to come see you on the investigative part just to run you through some of the technologies that are being used absent AI right now to assist in real time officers, particularly as you pointed out in transnational crime. And then I spoke to a little bit of the training, but I'll enhance that answer for you. And then I'm happy to also speak to a group if that's okay. Okay, thanks. In relation to IDEMIA, the Peel Regional Police Service, the York Regional Police Service, the Halton Regional Police Service undertook an investigation into IDEMIA and all facial recognition systems about 3 years ago. It was not an impulse buy. Studied the machine learning, artificial intelligence, the science behind this particular company, where they're being used, including, as I mentioned before, their adoption of human rights and ethical approaches to, in this case, facial recognition, but machine learning. So after that study was completed, then the police services undertook to adopt policy in relation to Peel Regional Police's Human Rights Project and recommendations from the Anti-Racism Advisory Committee in relation to AI and human rights. That was the second step. And then the third step was to ensure that the data held in a facial recognition system was held only by the police agencies and not by the third party. We use facial recognition to compare against what we call mugshot pictures that are obtained through the Identification of Criminals Act within the Criminal Code, and no other images out in the community, including open source images. So they're those only retained by the police service. And then finally, and I'd love to talk to you about this more, because can I tell you, your research and your question was very, very thoughtful, and it deserves more than speed dating through it like I'm doing right now. I think the last piece of it is to tell you that the project itself, even though it was 3 years and undertook quite a bit of research and had quite a bit of input behind it, also ensures that there are humans and gateways in the loop. So, for example, as I talked about training earlier, only 4 PRP officers out of our almost 3,000 officers have the training and are permitted to use the tool. Senior command officers must approve the use of the tool. If there's an identification made, there is an explicit instruction to the detective or the officers using the tool that it is no grounds to make an arrest or charge someone. That further human follow-up must accompany the facial recognition tool to assist in the investigation. And there's many more steps and checks and balances, as well as what we will be reporting on a yearly basis to the public on the number of uses and number of identifications, even including where we find misidentification. Is that a word? Misidentifications. So we will ensure to report that publicly as well at our police services board meeting. And hopefully that short answer, I can expand on it more after.
I want to just finish where I started with a thank you to all of you for spending your evening with us and for engaging with us in this conversation. These consultations are being done under the auspices of the board. I can't tell you how many individuals I come across in our community when I talk about what the board does and they have no idea what the police service board does. We provide the governance and the oversight for policing. Operationally, the chief and the deputy chiefs run the service and ensures that adequate and effective policing is done with the oversight of civilians. All of these individuals here are civilians. So it's important that you as community members understand that you have community individuals at the table involved in the process of ensuring that it's not just adequate and effective, but it is also focused on community safety and well-being. That's the primary goal of what we do as a police board. And so we're thankful that you engage with us. We talked about how we went through the process of getting the word out. We brought in a consultant to help us with communications, who built a complete communication strategy just to ensure that we could get the word out about these consultations. We have used WhatsApp groups, we have used media, we have used, you name it, we have tried it. But we also recognize that there's always more that can be done. And so for the individuals who didn't hear, we hope you have now heard, and that you will be at the third session, which is coming up on November 4th. See, I have good help around. November 4th is our next session. Spread the word. I think there is no better means of communication than you sharing with the people you are aware of who might have an interest in this. When they will get an email from a stranger on the police board saying, come out to a consultation, which they can ignore or goes into a filter and right to their junk mail, when it comes from a friend, they may pause and read it and say, you know what, I maybe should pay attention to this. So we are calling on you to be our advocates in this process, our disciples, to spread the word and let others know about this next session and seek their participation. When I speak with our communication consultants and support, they are telling me about, I think we have had the number of impressions from our attempts to communication goes into the millions. So a lot of effort has been made, but we also acknowledge that we can do more with your help. So I want to close with a thank you to my fellow board members who are here. Thank you to our deputy chief and our experts who are here to give us information, and to all of you for participating this evening. Thank you. Have a great evening.